A question to Mr. Broomfield. It's a very, your ability to provoke is still very much intact, and it's hard to, right after seeing it, to just ease myself into a Q&A, because it's pretty, as an American, it's pretty devastating. And my concern is, we know that so many of the Iraq-themed films have not reached an audience. And as a director and a producer, this must be of concern to you. And this one here, I hope that you can figure out how to at least get the politicians to look at it, let alone the public. I'd like you to talk a little bit about how you plan, personally as producer and director, to get this film into theaters and get it to people and have them see it. Because I think it should be seen, and I'd like to hear what you think about it.
Well, I mean, I agree with everything you said. I'm concerned too, and we have wonderful Susan here who's going to try and get the film out there, and we're doing everything we can to get as much interest and attention to the film. I hope that people see the film, but as you know, it's very, very difficult, I think. I mean, it's been interesting for me because when the film was shown in Toronto last September, there were already articles coming out in Variety and Hollywood Reporter talking about Iraq fatigue, because there were 11 films coming out. None of the films had actually come out, but they were already being written off as something that was going to be alienating to audiences. And I think, unfortunately, you know, what we see with the Iraq films is a much bigger phenomenon. I don't think it's just about Iraq. I think there's a feeling, unfortunately, that we can't change anything, so what can we do? What's the point of participating in this thing? The war's going to go on, and we've got to get on with our lives. And so I think it's, you know, it kind of represents more a feeling of powerlessness, I think, which is very understandable. And I think what I hope will be achieved with the film is that there's a sense of a recognition of the Iraqi culture, a recognition of the humanity of the people who were there. I hope that the film doesn't come across as judging one particular group of right and wrong, or a kind of cowboys and Indians kind of film. I think it's a respectful film for each group, and I think that that's the way forward. I think we need to come to terms with who the Iraqis are and their culture and find a way of moving forward from that. And that's why I would like the film to be shown as widely as possible.
As a follow-up, most of your films have been documentaries, and in this film it has a look and a feel of a documentary, but we're using real actors, some of whom experience in life is very similar to what we see on the screen. But the Arab actress that is the lead actress in your film, we've seen her before in a very political film. What was it like to go from real people to actors who had real experiences like real people and put them in a film?
Well, I mean, for me, having worked, as you say, in documentaries and working with real people, it was something that I know how to do and what I enjoy doing. And for example, Elliot, the scene, you know, in the bathroom was entirely really Elliot. I mean, I knew that this was something the film needed, but again, it was a question of working with Elliot and doing it at the right time, and doing it when Elliot felt comfortable to do it, and creating the situation with another Marine, Eric, who understood him and who he could talk to. And I think by, for example, creating a barracks, which is where all the Marines lived, they didn't retire to the Four Seasons in the evening. They lived in the barracks and they grew together as a group, as Marines would. And the same thing with the Iraqis. I think we were able to get performances that would have been very difficult working in a traditional cinematic way with enormous numbers of people and so on. And I think that this is a way in which cinema can move. I think that there have been big technological changes that have enabled films to be made in different ways, and I think this was kind of an experiment which I learned a lot on, but which I felt worked. And I think it's a way in which non-actors can also bring their experiences in a way that it's a sort of, I would call it more like a kind of real cinema. It's using real people, real locations, using, shooting much more in a documentary style, and I think creating something, different.